Hi, I'm Michaela and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys a few unique, underrated, underappreciated plants. I made a video like this earlier in the spring and I had a lot of fun with it. I just think it's fun to see a few plants that are different from the same ones that people talk about all the time, because we know we love those. Nothing wrong with those at all. But there's so many different plants out there. So I think some of these, I mean, you've probably heard of them, seen them, but they don't get talked about very often. So they may be a little further from your mind when you are looking for plants, but they shouldn't be, because they are just as cool, if not cooler. So anyway, I'm gonna start out with Hoyas because I've been on a real Hoya kick this year. Hoyas and Syngoniums. This is the year of Hoyas and Syngoniums for me, but I feel like more people are coming to appreciate Hoya than maybe used to, myself included. So anyway, the first plant is a Hoya induensis, and it's a really cute one. It has these little leaves with kind of a scalloped edge, which I think is fun. It reminds me of like a lettuce hem on a shirt, which is just kind of fun. So yeah, it's just an interesting leaf edge. I don't see this a lot on plants, and I think I'm a little leaf Hoya person after thinking about it. But I think this one's really fun. It's really easy and fast to grow also. Okay, so the next one is also a Hoya. I feel like I talk about this one quite a lot, and it's a weird one. It's a Hoya rotundiflora. This is just the most unusual little leaf shape. It's like, I don't even know what to compare it to. They're like rounded rectangular leaves that have pretty pronounced veining, and like they're kind of fuzzy too. And they feel completely different than a lot of Hoyas. So this is a really fun one. It's really easy and fast to grow also. I think I do have some of both of these on my shop right now too. It's also really shiny. Yeah, Hoya rotundiflora. And this one, I had a hard time getting this to grow at first until I took a few cuttings of it, and then it just started to grow really quickly and has been doing really well ever since. I'm trying to get it to attach to this little trellis and can't really tell if it's doing it or not, but you know, we've got time. Okay, the next one is not a Hoya, but it's a Dischidia, but they're really, I find them to be very similar, but it's a Dischidia hirsuta. And this just has those cute little tiny leaves that I'm such a big fan of. And they're also kind of fuzzy and veiny, which is just weird. And the leaves are thick too, if you can, don't focus on me, camera. They're just, I don't know what to compare this to. They kind of remind me a little bit of a string of turtles because they have like a thicker leaf, but also a Hoya curtisii and a Hoya serpens. I don't know that this is a helpful comparison at this point. But this is just a fun one, and it's been so far really easy to grow, but I just don't see a lot of people talking about this one. I don't know why. It's so fun. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about an Anthurium, and I've had this one for quite a while and I love it. It is a Anthurium radicans crossed with a luxurians. I initially got this one because I wanted the luxurians, which is a pretty pricey plant, and I've heard it's fairly finicky also. So I got this one kind of to get instead, and it really just did the trick for me. I have no desire to purchase an Anthurium luxurians at this point. I mean, the leaf is a little more elongated than that one, but like the color, the texture, and the shape is really similar, and it just, look at that. How cool is that? I love a good textured leaf. I think, has every plant I've shown been a textury plant? I'm a texture person, okay? So most of these are gonna be chosen based on their texture, but look at this. It's like a dark green, kind of almost black, and it has purple petioles, and is this a leaf or a bloom? So this one's blooming right now. I'm trying to decide if I want to collect the pollen or not. Okay, so I'm not even saying anything. I'm just looking at this plant in the viewfinder, but this is a really easy Anthurium. I have had this in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet for a little over a year now. It's done really well. It does not give me any trouble. I have let this thing dry out, and I mean, minimal damage from that. But it's a much cheaper alternative to the luxurians, and I mean, I have no desire to buy a luxurians at this point because this looks similar enough to me. It does the trick. And yeah, I think everyone needs one of these. Maybe not everyone, but I think this is a really pretty one. And it's just a little less picky than the velvety Anthuriums, which I'm a big fan of. I love those, but that is just a little bit more easygoing than those are. Okay, so the next one, I mean, it'll look a little funny because it was out in the greenhouse. So this is a Monstera lechleriana, and this looks a lot like the Monstera Peru, but the leaves are just a lot bigger. I actually did not know this other stalk was even on this plant. I knew about this one, but this was hiding back behind. So this is a nice surprise for me. But these, when they get more mature, start to get some fenestrations. And in pictures, I feel like when they're mature, they can kind of look like a Monstera adansonii, but they have a little bit more of like a shiny textured leaf. So I think this is a really cool one. And the leaves are definitely bigger than a Monstera Peru. I don't have any in the house right now, or I would show you, but the leaves are about double the size as the leaves on a Monstera Peru, which is another very underrated plant in my opinion, unless you're wanting to propagate it. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to some philodendrons, which is probably my, philodendrons are probably my favorite. That's not what we're talking about though. So this one's a little shinier because I just wiped it off since it was out in the greenhouse. This is a Philodendron roseo-cataphyllum. This is just one that I don't see very often. And I will say that it's, I wish I had dried this off so you could really see. I guess on this leaf you can see it has just like a matte, smooth finish, kind of like, oh, what does this look like? Maybe like a suede-ish kind of situation, but it's just a little pillowy leaf, and it's really pretty. I love this one. Yeah, it's definitely more difficult to grow. I've had this plant for about a year, and it is not much bigger. Actually, you know what? I think I cut this all the way down to a stump at one point, and this is what it has grown back as. But I think this one is really beautiful. I don't see these being sold very often. I would guess it's because they're a little bit more difficult to grow. So Sorry, I got a text and I forgot what I was talking about. And they're a little bit smaller than like the pillowy philodendrons that we're used to seeing, like the gloriosum and the postazanum. So if you're strapped for space, but you like your pillowy philodendrons, I feel like this is a good option. Okay, this one is one that I feel like I talk about a lot, and this one gets talked about probably more than most of the other plants that are on this list, but I think it's very cool, very unusual, and that is the Philodendron tortum. I just have this plant in front of an east-facing window in normal room humidity, and I'm not having any trouble with it, but it's gonna be kind of hard to show because there's like not enough plant to focus on. But it's just very strange. It's kind of got a palm type of vibe. Also, it's just a little creepy, which I like, I guess. I did not think that I liked this plant until I saw it in person, but it's one of those that's really hard to get a good picture of. But I think it's a really cool philodendron, and I'll see if I have any pictures to insert, but the way the new leaves unfurl is probably one of the coolest things about the plant. They come in kind of purpley and they're just like, they just look wild, and it is so cool to watch. But this is the newest leaf. It's a pretty big one. I've heard people say that they require really high humidity to grow. Well, I don't have this in humid conditions at all. So, and I'm not having any issues. It's growing really quickly. So I don't think that you necessarily would have to, but very, very cool plant. Okay, so the last philodendron on the list is a Philodendron Dark Lord. This is not my main mother plant. I did not feel like dragging that big old thing in here today, but this one's actually for sale on my shop. But look at these big leaves. I think this is such a cool philodendron, and look at these dark purple petioles. And these leaves on this plant can get pretty big. Oh, and look at this new leaf. If you like the dark colored plants, which I am showing a lot of today, it looks like. Anyway, if you like those, this is a plant that you definitely need in your life. Or maybe not need, but this is a really nice dark leafed plant, and it's really easy to grow too. They don't give you any trouble, and when you cut them up, they almost like bleed, which is weird. So like when you cut up a philodendron, there's a lot of sap a lot of times, but the sap in this is like a dark purpley red color, which is just kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't see a lot of people talking about this plant. I really don't know why. And this one is even a little bit lighter in color than they often are, because it is growing out in the greenhouse where the light is higher. But if you were to grow this in your house, I think the leaves would end up being even darker. This is just a beautiful plant. I will always have one of these. So underrated. Okay, now we are moving on into the Syngoniums. Like I said, it's the year of the Syngonium for me. The first one, I don't see people talking about this one very often. I don't know if it maybe goes by a different name sometimes, but this is the Syngonium Pink Flecked. And it just has a really cool, well, pink flecked leaf pattern. If you like pink plants, definitely check out Syngoniums, because there are a ton of different pink Syngoniums, and they are all so different. There's just so much variety when it comes to Syngoniums, but this is the Syngonium Pink Flecked. I think I have some of these on my shop right now too, but I did have somebody ask me what the difference between this and, what is it, the Pink Illusion? Oh, I moved that plant. So that one is like a solid pink color, and you'll usually find those in garden centers, but just the pattern on this leaf is quite a bit different than that. I'll see if I can throw in a picture of it. But this one's just a little more mottled, I guess you could say. Okay, the next Syngonium is the Syngonium aurea. So this is like, it's kind of like the Albo Syngonium, but it has more yellow variegation. I will say this one's a little bit trickier, but at the end of the day, it's Syngonium, so it's really not too bad. The yellow is definitely more prone to browning than the white on the Albo Syngonium in my experience, but this is a good way to get some of the yellow variegation like you might find on a Monstera aurea without the Monstera aurea price tag, which I love. So, oh, this is a cool leaf. Oh, yeah, not this. This is not what I was talking about. This is like mirrored, so I'm trying to find. This leaf, okay. This is, if it weren't browning, this is a very cool leaf. And I have it in this yellow pot, so it looks more yellow. I think that's making it look more green maybe, but what a cool plant. Okay, and I have one more Syngonium, and that is the Syngonium erythrophyllum. And these leaves on this plant are so dark that they are almost black, and the backs are purple, which is so unusual for a house plant, and I just love it. This one definitely likes a lot more water than other Syngoniums that I have, but this is a beautiful, beautiful plant. If you like dark leaves and dark plants, this is definitely one to look into. I've had this one for about a year now. I will say it's kind of tricky to propagate compared to other Syngoniums, but as far as just regular growing conditions, it's doing fine just on my wicker shelf back here under a grow light. It definitely likes a lot more water than a lot of other Syngoniums, but you can just use it as decor and you don't have to keep it in a greenhouse, which I appreciate because somehow I'm short on greenhouse space all the time. Okay, and I don't remember, I feel like I have talked about this plant in every single video that I've made lately, but I just can't quit talking about it. So here we are, the Labesia turtleback. I don't see a lot of people talking about this plant, but they really should be because it is very, very cool. I'm keeping this in my Mills bow right now. It's been in there for about 2 months. I think I said this exact thing in a recent video, but I'm not having any trouble with it so far. That's not to say that I won't. I haven't had it very long, but I mean, I feel like if it were gonna start struggling, it would have done so by now. Like if it were a Calathea, it would already be dead. They just don't work for me. But yeah, this is a Labesia turtleback. Arid Market sent this plant to me, and it acclimated really well. I didn't lose any leaves trying to acclimate it. I kept it in water for quite a while, and then I moved it into soil, and it is getting a new leaf, and the new leaf it's coming in pretty slow, but I mean, I don't know what to expect with this plant, so it could be just what it does. Sorry, I keep just like staring at these plants in the viewfinder of my camera and not saying anything. So hopefully I said enough to end up with a video. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any of these plants or if you have any underrated plant recommendations that you think I should look into. I just like finding plants that maybe people don't talk about as much, but are still just as cool, that we just might not even know about because nobody's talking about them. That's something to think about. Maybe I need to build another greenhouse just full of plants that I don't even know exist yet. There are just so many possibilities as it pertains to plants. Anyway, yeah, let me know if you have any underrated plants that you think I should check out. And yeah, if you liked this video, please like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram at Queen City Tropicals, and I will see you again soon.